but the key event for me happened when I was a younger Marine, and I had a gentleman say, he watched me finish teaching, and he said, if you could just change whatever that behavior is, the drinking and the things that you're doing, he was like, you'll be one of the most phenomenal Marines I know. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna stop drinking, And I got to the house that night, and I opened the refrigerator to my box of wine, right, the cheap stuff, and I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna do it tonight. And one night turned into 2 nights, 2 nights turned into 2 weeks, 2 weeks turned into 2 years, and because of that one interaction, I haven't had beer, liquor, any drink since 2005. And when I cleaned that up, man, my mind was clear, and I realized where I was. And it's been nothing but an ascension after that point. Multiple meritorious promotions all throughout the military, selected to teach at leadership schools. And I'm not going to go too far in depth in that. I know we're going to go EQ, man, but all of my successes in the Marine Corps really did come. And my successes as a father as well, and a husband, they come from me learning from my low points.
Welcome to the EQ Gangster podcast, where you will learn practical tools to grow your mental and emotional health and intelligence to be the best version of yourself, both at work and at home. It is real, raw, and transformational. The journey of emotional growth isn't easy, but it's worth it. I believe in you. This episode is sponsored by Classical Conversations. Since 1997, Classical Conversations has been equipping families like yours with the resources to homeschool with confidence, following a classical curriculum rooted in a Christ-centered worldview alongside other families in a local community. Homeschooling is doable with Classical Conversations. Check out classicalconversations.com/Gibbons for more information. Again, that's classicalconversations.com/Gibbons, Gibbens.
What's up, man?
My man, what's up, Big D?
What's up?
Good to
How
see
are
you,
you,
bro.
Hey, good to see you again, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad we were able to make this one happen.
That's right. Yes, absolutely. Hey, love that hairdo, bro.
Man, I appreciate it. I've been working on it, man. I've been trying to do something different, but this is what I've settled on,
All right. Okay. I like that beard. I know that's probably new based on the new civilian life the last year or so.
Come on, man. It's with the life changes, And then after meeting you, I'm gonna go ahead and I've been calling it a beard, but now it's the Noble Starter Kit. That's what I have. I've got the Noble Starter Kit. Looks like I got a few more years to catch up, man.
That's right.
We're gonna be there.
That's right. Well, you got a long ways to get the wisdom I got, though. You know what I'm saying?
Come on, man. Don't let my time in service fool you. We got a little bit. I got a little bit. I think I got one or two trying to creep out on me over here.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. How are you?
Man, I'm doing good. It's the yeah. You and I we didn't make it to that point, man, but I'm a BJJ guy as well.
No way. Are you serious?
I'm not even messing with you, man.
Dude, how long you been rolling?
Man, I started doing jiu-jitsu back in 2008. Yeah. I was big into the no-gi thing, man, back when I was on recruiting duty in Louisiana. And then, just constantly progressing. And then in about 2016, man, I got introduced to the gi. And that was just a complete game changer for me. So yeah, man, I got started 2008, constantly training, and then I would teach martial arts in the Marine Corps. That's the other side. I was also part of the Marine Corps martial arts program. You know what I mean? I ran the schoolhouses for it, where we made instructors and where we made instructor trainers. And so it just blended right in with me doing BJJ, and then just truly, man, the gi just fell in love with it. The passion started. But yeah, man, I'm a brown belt under Enrique Watson out of North Carolina, out of CX MMA.
No way.
Yeah.
No, so at what part of North Carolina? At Camp Lejeune? Yeah,
he has multiple locations, but his main location is in Swansboro. And we train here out on the base here, Quantico. We train on the base at Quantico, so we're basically a sub of that main gym.
Okay.
Yeah,
For sure. Bro, that is fire, man.
Yeah,
Well, we
man.
got to
That's
roll sometime, man.
That's a must. That is
Yes.
that is a must, man. So what we're in right now, this is my lion's den. And if I was to turn the camera around, it's nothing but BJJ mats. It's all matted out. Like this whole area is this is my office, my gym, obviously my studio, man, but BJJ. So when you start talking about iron sharpening iron related to the scripture, and we start talking about what the struggle is, I tell people all the time, man, jiu-jitsu is not just the fact that I like to roll around with men and women in pajamas, like my buddies like to tell me, but it really is problem solving. You know what I mean? Because the more you freak out and the more you stress about it and the more you prevent yourself from being calm, the more mistakes you make and the more vulnerable you find yourself. It's so many life skills. And when you start getting into it, man, and then you start getting good, that's when it's no longer cardio because you're relaxed, right? And now we're really problem solving, and now we're thinking, and now it becomes, it's no longer checkers, it's now chess. I become a strategist. And that same thing applies, especially when you talk about that iron sharpening iron, man. I love the fact that you all are having that going right now, because that's what I feel like every single time I get on the mat, no matter who I roll with, from the white belt to the black belt.
That's right. That's right. Well, so, man, I'm telling you, D, I'm telling you, man, that is awesome. Because, bro, like a bunch of my podcast episodes and YouTube episodes are lessons that I get from JITS. I tell people that JITS is it's mental, emotional, physical, and sometimes spiritual lessons.
Man. Absolutely.
That I'm learning, that God is like, look, dude, like, I mean, my first 2 months of JITS I was the spazzy white belt, right? And I would, all I knew how to do was I was an infantry guy, former airborne ranger in the 82nd. So all I knew was aggression and of course I didn't know any techniques. So I just would hug you aggressively.
Yeah.
Right. And then the upper belts would sweep me, tap me. I'm like, man, what?
Right.
I'm like, dude,
right.
You gotta chill out, bro. Like I'm like, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta chill. And it took them 2 or 3 months of like telling me every roll, like, dude, chill out.
Yeah.
And so, of course now I see it, right? Cause I'm on the other end, but like I'm 6.5 years in.
Yeah.
And just got my purple belt, and
congratulations on that.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Hey, let's not just breeze past. We just got our purple belt. Let's not make that. No, we can't just listen. For the listeners, you need to understand what it means to be a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. That is, in my mind, and everyone I've heard, Jocko Willink talks about this as well, man. When you get to that purple belt status, you're a black belt in waiting. You're
that may apply to other purple belts.
People may not listen.
Bro, me
at that, if they put that purple belt on you, that means you're able to defend. You're thinking more now, and you have that skill set. And now, man, of course, listen, there's going to be a lot of people who are black belts out there. They're going to be like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Okay. Yeah. Whatever, dude. Listen, it's about time now. It's about time and perfecting that craft. You've proven that you didn't fall victim to the blue belt blues, and you're on your way, man. So seriously, bro, congratulations to you on that.
I appreciate that. No, I appreciate that. I still, because I like just got it. It's still crispy, right? It's still fresh out of the wrapping. So
yeah, don't get me wrong. My brown belt isn't that salty, right? And then I got promoted to brown belt back in May. Yeah, man,
that's awesome. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
But it is the emotional journey, the physical journey, the mental journey, it is such, there's so many layers to JITS. I tell people, and it's funny because like I was just telling, every white belt that rolls me will tell me like, oh, Noble's the breathe guy. I'm like, look, just like again, back to emotional intelligence, right? Is part of recentering and getting yourself dialed back down is like, how do you recenter? Breathing, right? And I tell these white belts, like, look, I know that your fight, flight, and freeze response is activated because you've probably never been in hand-to-hand combat before, so to speak. But like when you get in this panic state, you actually get dumber. You physiologically get dumber, and your brain is going to one or two options. When you allow yourself to breathe and calm down and relax, you start to realize, oh, I could do this. I could do, right. It's the puzzle. Like you're saying right now, when you're spazzing out, you're only seeing checkers. But when you calm down and allow yourself to kind of breathe and relax,
Of
now you're like,
course.
oh, okay, this piece can move this way. I can move right, like you were saying. But
And it becomes enjoyable. It becomes enjoyable. You know what I mean? And right along the lines of what you were saying, man, when you're talking about just breathe, I wrote an article last month about breathing. And the whole purpose of it was to really, relate it to EQ. All right. And it's talking about the power of the breath. And I related it to two things. One was diaphragmatic breathing, or you can call it deliberate breathing. And when you take control and you have a deliberate breath, this means it's not controlling me, I'm controlling it. And if you think about it from the EQ perspective, the same thing happens with our actions and our emotions and our reactions. I have to be deliberate in that practice. And, it was a great article, man, just really talking about, and what I did, I just identified some of the things that stress me out and some of the things that stress people out in general, and how something as simple as deliberate breathing can slow down and allow you to process it the right way so you can get away from emotional thinking and you can allow it to move through and get to the rational response.
Love that, D. And so continuing that jujitsu flow. So one of my head instructor is a brown belt, 2-stripe brown belt, and he's an animal, but I probably have him by 70 to 80 pounds.
Yeah.
And he's a machine. He competes. He's an animal. He's no joke. And he told me, I've only been at this new gym a couple months because we moved, and so it's closer to where I live.
Yeah.
And one of the things he said, because I've rolled with him a few different times, and he said, "Oh man, Noble, I heard I heard you start your breathing," and I'm like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" He's like, "Well, I know that once you start your breathing when we're rolling, you're in the zone, and now I gotta really pay attention to to what I do."
Right.
So, but just again, the concept of the power of breathing and getting you into that flow state that
man.
it puts you in that so that you can. It's almost a physical way to help calm your emotions. Now I know there's some other tools that we have to do that we can do as well, but that is a physical way to impact our emotions. So anyway, okay, so D, I want to ask you this, bro. So tell us your background. Tell us tell us your story, your journey. Tell us and include in there, if you can, some of those emotional lessons that you have learned throughout the arc and trajectory of your life.
Yeah. Well, man, I've got a lot of, as with anybody else, I've got a lot of life experiences where I have shown some high EQ and some low EQ, right? But of course, on that journey, that's what's going to happen. But it's been a journey to get to this point, long before I even recognized it was EQ. I'm from Montgomery, Alabama. Came up single parent home, raised by my mother, my grandmother. You know what I mean? They did a phenomenal job. So although the father wasn't present, I never missed having a father because they did such a phenomenal job. But just, man, hanging around in the neighborhood, found myself, to be honest with you, man, I would call myself the Jekyll and Hyde, because came up in the church, but I was also the one who fell victim to the environment as well. So what I presented in home wasn't the same thing I presented on the outside. I knew better than to bring that type of behavior home, right? But then when I was on the out, I can't really say it was fitting in, because it wasn't fitting in. It was just being a part of the environment. That's just what we did. And so I ended up getting in some trouble, man, when I was 17 years old and I was expelled from high school. And at that point in time, I had already made a decision that, I wanted to go into the military because it just wasn't much. I was doing music. I play music, piano, drums, and I was doing the music thing, but it really wasn't working. And my mom was like, you need to really consider life. You need to consider leaving, man. And so one day there came a man in blue. Right. That's an abbreviated story. And I ended up joining the delayed entry program, man, at 17 years old. On my 17th birthday, I swore in saying, hey, look, I'm going to do this thing. And I joined the Marine Corps, man. And after being expelled from high school, I couldn't go to any public school in Montgomery, in Alabama, period. So I had to go to a private school to be able to graduate, man. So mom is like, look, you made the mistake. You're going to work and you're going to pay for it. So I ended up getting frustrated with her, moved out, and I was living in someone's basement for about 4 or 5 months, just squatting, right? And somehow, some way, man, you know, we gonna point up. My recruiter found me in this basement, and I had already joined, but he came and found me and snatched me up. It's like, dude, like, what are you doing? He's like, here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna show up here every day, and I'm gonna pick you up, and I'm gonna take you to school. And when you get done with day classes, I'm gonna take you back to your house, or you're gonna come back to the recruiter station, and then I'm gonna take you to night school, and then I'm gonna bring you back from night school, and I'm gonna drop you back off, and this cycle is gonna repeat. And no joke, man, this dude did this for the entire year. For the entire year. I'm so appreciative. His name was Sergeant Michael Hakis. Never talked to him after boot leave. Haven't seen him, can't find him on social media. But this dude really, you want to talk about somebody changing the trajectory of your life? Man, he didn't have to do it, especially me later on becoming a recruiter, understanding what that took. Forever grateful, man. But ended up joining the Marine Corps and just crazy successful all throughout, man. I've had many ups and downs. First came in radio operator by trade. 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines was my first duty station. Ended up deploying with them to Iraq. Initial invasion. That's a conversation for a much greater time. But when you talk about how life takes you on ups and downs, you know, in a matter of 4 hours, I lost 18 of my best friends. The Battle of Nasiriyah, March 23rd, 2003. We went in and we were responsible for securing the 2 bridges so everyone else could push towards Baghdad. And we ended up going through what's now dubbed as Ambush Alley. We were ambushed and we were pinned down for about 4 hours. And through that, we ended up losing 18 and another 33 wounded that day, man. So life really changed for that young corporal. Life changed for that young corporal. And then, of course, years later, man, I didn't know how to process that thing. How do you process the loss? How do you process the grief? What is this? You know, and no one really talked about it, because if you talked about things, you're weak. Let's be real. You were weak. And yeah, man, just years of dealing with that, and then got into bodybuilding, got into lifting weights, and got into jujitsu. And both of those 2 things will really start pulling me out of the mud. And I was like, you know what? I really like this lifting thing. I really like this jujitsu thing. And I just fell in love with it, man. And I ended up doing 9 bodybuilding shows. Actually, I ended up doing 9 bodybuilding shows, took some first place in a few overalls. And then the jiu-jitsu thing happened, and then promotions. And as my mind started to get healthy, my performance started to change. And it started to catapult, man. So, but the key event for me happened when I was a younger Marine. And I had a gentleman say, you know, he watched me finish teaching, and he said, if you could just change whatever that behavior is, the drinking and the things that you're doing, he was like, you'll be one of the most phenomenal Marines I know. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to stop drinking, you know? And I got to the house that night, and I opened the refrigerator to my box of wine, right? The cheap stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do it tonight. And one night turned into 2 nights, 2 nights turned into 2 weeks, 2 weeks turned to 2 years. And because of that one interaction, I haven't had beer, liquor, any drink since 2005. And when I cleaned that up, man, my mind was clear. And I realized where I was, and it's been nothing but an ascension after that point. Multiple meritorious promotions all throughout the military, selected to teach at leadership schools, and you know, I'm not going to go too far in depth in that. I know we're going to go EQ, man, but all of my successes in the Marine Corps really did come, and my successes as a father as well, and a husband, they come from me learning from my low points. You know, a lot of good things happened in my life, but you know what it's like when you're you have the ebbs and the flows, and when you're at that bottom, man, life teaches you. So I've grown from a lot of that, man. But I'm going to defer it back to you, man, because you're going to mess around and I end up taking this whole show, telling my whole story, man. But yeah, that's just that's how I got to where I was, man. But I ended up being in the Marine Corps for 22 years and 3 months, and September 1st this year was my official retirement date, man. So this is why we got the baby noble beard growing right now.
Thank you so much, D, for your transparency and for sharing your journey there. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate you asking.
A couple questions based on that story, and then we'll start getting into some of the present stuff and everything. So what lessons did you learn from your mother from an emotional standpoint? What lessons did you, what emotional lessons did you leave your childhood with, either good or bad, positive,
Yeah.
negative, pleasant, unpleasant? What was that? What were some
Oh
of those, if you don't
man,
mind sharing?
man, she was phenomenal at recognizing how she felt and showing it. She was phenomenal at that, right? And never tucked anything away. And that was the one thing that I took from her initially, being real and being open and being honest with my emotions. And I was good with that until I experienced significant combat, and then not knowing what to do with that, I tucked all of that away. But go ahead.
Okay, so based on that, okay, so two questions based on that. What was the impact of that on you? And at what point did you start growing your self-awareness?
The impact with her or the impact with the situation?
The impact that of her dynamic of,
Yeah.
she was very self-aware and communicated that very well.
Yeah.
How did that impact you, and how did that impact your self-awareness?
Yeah. So what it was is, man, I didn't end up hitting bottom one day. I had a friend of mine who was killed in combat. His son, his wife and his son, they reached out and she wanted to know how did he pass? How did he die? And that I went down, man, because you don't want to recall certain things and you never think you're going to be asked that type of question. And I talked to my mom that night, and that was my first time telling her everything that took place. And she had no idea. And she said, I need you to go and get help. She's like, I need you to go and get help. She's like, I know you're strong. You talk to me, but you need to talk to someone else who has the skill set to be able to deal with the things that you're struggling with. She said, and I can't do that. She said, and my greatest fear is that you keep this thing in a bottle for so long that you no longer have room to pack it away and it explodes. And she said, I need you around this world and I don't need you. She said, I don't need you going postal at 60. That's what she said. And that really made me do a self-assessment and say, let's really identify where you are. Look at you right now. Your eyes are bloodshot from crying. You called and you're just a snotty mess. You know what your nightmares have been like. You know what your emotions have been like. Go and sit down. And I went in, man, and I had my first, the way I went about this, I said, you know what? I want to make sure that I do not continue to perpetuate this cycle of Marines not getting help. So I said, I will go in. And the next day I went in and we had PT with our Marines. I was a staff in COIC, staff non-commissioned officer in charge of a leadership school, sergeant's course in Hawaii. I was stationed there. And after we finished PT, physical training, that next morning, I remember taking my memorial bracelet off and I handed it to the students and I had them pass it around. And I started talking to them and I told them, I was like, I suffer because of this. And this is that self-awareness. I need to get it out. And the only way for me to do the next step, because self-awareness is one thing, and how you manage that awareness is another. And so what I made sure in that moment is I said, I want to make sure they know that it's okay to be vulnerable and it's okay to reach out. And I picked up my phone in front of my Marines after PT. I called behavioral health and I said, I am tired of wearing a mask. I am dying inside and I need help. You want to talk about liberating. You want to talk about a freeing experience. You want to talk about emotions running wild. And I watched the look in these Marines' eyes and I thought about the after effect, man. And I never thought I could do that. And when I did that and when I saw that and when they came and loved on me, when they came and said, thank you, I will do the same. It meant everything to me. So it was because she told me she wanted me to reach out. It made me do that self-assessment to see where I was, self-awareness being one of those key pillars of emotional intelligence. And then I had to take that next step to be able to manage it, man. And that's what I started doing. And once I started reaching out for help, lots of up and down sharing that information, but that was a part of it. And then from that point, it was about developing healthy management strategies.
Man, wow. What a powerful example of modeling, taking ownership and responsibility of where
Yeah.
you're at. And then she
Yeah.
had an emotional sucking chest wound
Huh.
to be able to, and what a great way to do it, for accountability. Like, I'm gonna,
Absolutely.
you know what I'm saying? So for you, but also for them, like the power of that moment, bro. I mean,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That is such a powerful example. And it really demonstrates a couple things too that I say a lot on the podcast and YouTube is pain and bitterness that's not transformed will be transferred somewhere else in your life.
100%.
And then another one is this one is unaddressed emotions do not get better over time. They
Yeah.
actually compound.
Absolutely.
So to hear that, okay, nope, the buck stops with me. Thank you, mom, for that little nudge.
Yep.
Boom, I'm taking ownership. Let's go. Make that phone call. Man, that dude, that is so massive.
Yeah.
Okay. So from that point, now take me forward to your emotional growth journey, that emotional fitness program.
Yeah.
What did that look like for you?
So I work for TalentSmart, right? I work for TalentSmart, emotional intelligence company. And prior to this, man, I really didn't have names to put on all of that. And so it really, my emotional fitness journey started back then, but I just didn't have the title. So when the terms I use are going to be some of the things that I work in right now, right? The first thing we've already mentioned it was constantly doing a self check, constantly checking the pulse, constantly looking at what triggers me, what heightens my level of emotion, what gets me angry, what irritates me, what gets me excited. And then when I figure out all those things, all right, so yeah, your level of awareness is here, but you manage, man. My temper used to be, I wasn't, again, I said Jekyll and Hyde. It was just, man, dealing with those experiences. I just blow up. And then after that, like, man, I've got to clean up this mess. I just threw a frag in this room and no one else in that room needed to be a part of that. But it was because I didn't deal with what it was. And so I really started doing daily self checks. And what that was me really, before I did anything, before I had that conversation that I knew I didn't want to have with my bride, right? Really saying, all right, look, if she says this, it's going to trigger you, right? So you cannot control what she says or what she does, but you can control what you say and what you do. And what started to happen for me, because that was difficult, Noble. So it was difficult for me. So my management strategy became silence. Don't speak, process. Don't speak, process. Don't speak, process. And when you're done and you fully understand, now work. We went through couples counseling and they gave us a little card. I thought it was the dumbest thing in the world. It says, whoever has this card is the speaker and they have the floor. And they're like, so she had it one day and she's talking to me and she's like, I got the card. I was like, that's just dumb. Like, no, I'm a grown man. You're not going to tell me I'm not going to talk. We're not agreeing right now. And I'm not going to play this little card game. But then she says, so you're not respecting me or the conversation. And I'm like, she's like, so your emotions and the way you feel is probably, I was like, you know what? I see it. So I stopped and we started to do this. And so this started to really help me with everything. So it started inside the home. It started inside the home with the relationship. And I started realizing the importance of, one, not listening just to throw out a response when there's a disagreement, but listening to understand, and then not providing a response based on what I thought they wanted to hear, but truly giving good feedback. Now, let's remove that from her and let's put it on me. I also had to do the same thing within my mind with the things that I was dealing with for my emotional fitness. I had to recognize and understand the emotions that I was feeling and hers, and start looking at everything that was happening with everyone else, because the way I reacted or the way I overreacted also had an effect on the other side, because part of emotional intelligence is recognizing and understanding your emotion in yourself and others. And so there's the social management and the relationship management piece that I had to work on, man. So again, it's been a journey, but it's just the constant self-checks and the constant reminders. And then when I found that thing that I mastered, I would then move on to the next step. Okay, so you're good at this area. Now you need to work on this.
Okay, so you set a truckload in that, and I want to break it down because
Yeah.
you went to like, okay, I'm a brown belt in EQ now. Okay,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of mat time, right?
There's a whole lot, man. I got a lot of white belt mistakes.
You're right. You don't just get promoted to brown belt out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. And so what, okay. So a couple things that I struggled with that you kind of breezed through in my own journey. So I want you to break down the self-checks, because number one, for me, I didn't want to do a self-check because I didn't speak the language of emotions or emotional intelligence. I didn't know the ABCs, bro, of emotions or emotional intelligence. So so that's number one. So I didn't want to do self-checks. So that's that one reason. The second reason I didn't want to do it is I didn't want to know. I didn't.
Right.
I didn't want to peek under the hood because number one, I'm not
ignorance
a mechanic.
was bliss.
And well, sort of. I mean, ignorance was painful for me because of my low EQ.
I got you.
But I didn't know. Like, okay, so now I open the hood. Like, I don't know what I'm looking at. I go, I just see an engine, but I don't know. I don't know where the spark. I didn't know what spark plugs were. I didn't know what the pistons were. I didn't know. Right. And so, and then because I didn't ever look under the hood before, I didn't want to know what monsters were under there because how is it? Godzilla? Is it King Kong? Is it? And then once I saw those monsters, I didn't have the tools or the weapons to know, okay, it's King Kong. What do I do?
Yeah.
I got no idea. So let me just try to keep, you know what I'm saying? So, but I think now 4 years into my emotional growth journey, I think the self-check is a humongous tool. Yeah. But can you break that M4 apart for us? Can you show some of those individual components of what a self-check looks like? And how did you do that? What did that journey look like to get good at being able to check in with yourself?
So there is one of those check-in with myself things was when I showed my emotions in front of that team, because part of having a self-check is the accountability, right? And by me doing that, I gained accountability partners, because those were people who were going to check in on me. Those were people who were going to make sure I was good. And so anytime you have a goal, studies have shown when you share that goal with other people, you're more likely to accomplish it, because there are people who are going to check in and who are going to hold you to it. But it needs to be somebody that means something to you as well. Tell your goal to someone you don't care about, or you don't talk to that often, doesn't really do it. And so that's one thing. I had accountability partners, man, who would keep me in line. The other part of that self-check is I could look at everybody else, and you can lie to everyone else, but you cannot lie to the mirror. And I remember many days really looking at myself in the mirror and telling myself, today is going to be the best day of my life. But my mouth said it, but looking in my eyes like, no, it's not. It's going to be just as dark as the rest. And I started to use what you and I spoke about the other day, abundant language. And when my language switched to abundant language, I realized the next step was controlling my self-talk. By me controlling my self-talk, I changed the narrative that was taking place in my mind about many situations, whether it was combat related, whether it was something that I was dealing with in the office, whether it was me dealing with my kids or life circumstances, all the ups and downs we've had in our family. It was changing the self-talk, man. And really, that applies to any situation. And that helped me go with another management strategy, that we have with smiling more and understanding what I needed to do was change. I call it the optometrist method. And what the optometrist method is, if you ever gone in for an eye exam, when you go in, you sit in for the eye exam, you sit down, they ask you first and foremost, hey, read the largest letter you can read, right? And you get in there and if your vision is crazy bad, the first letter is E, right? But you read the largest, the smallest line you can read. And then they go in and they sit you in front of the machine. And when they sit you in front of it, they show you the image, right? They show you the image in the center. And then they change it. Is it better or worse? Better. Is it better or worse? better. And they continue to make those small micro adjustments until the vision is clear. And so I say that because my self-check and my self-steps was about changing your perspective and changing my lens. And by me working daily to change my lens, whatever the object was I was seeing in the center, I needed to start making that more of a focal point. And if it was not a healthy image that I was looking at, I needed to change the lens. So you either change the lens or you change the perspective, right? Because changing my lenses, if the object is still in front of me, that's one thing. But if I change my perspective, that means I have to step outside of this and really look at it. And so I developed that optometrist method in all of my situations, man. Marcus Aurelius is someone who I follow, former, I say former Roman emperor. He's no longer here. So of course he's a former, right? But he talks about perspective a lot. And Jim Rohn talks about your philosophy on life and the philosophy that you add to it. If you're a pessimist, if you're an optimist, if you're a realist, whatever you want to call it, that's your philosophy. And so for me, I use that optometrist method to change my philosophy, to always change my lens, and no matter what I was dealing with, man. So taking that look in the mirror, doing that honest assessment, doing the self-check, changing the way I spoke, using abundant language, and then changing my perspective, changing the lens so that I no longer saw problems, I saw possibilities.
That's great, Skinny. And I'm gonna push back a little bit. So I'm the only reason I'm doing it, D, is because I want to learn. I'm trying to grow, and I'm trying to understand in my own growth and in my own journey.
Oh, gotcha.
So for me, okay, so I was in a business cult for 2 decades, and I don't remember if we went into that a whole lot last time we chatted, but that's for another conversation. But they were hardcore, bro, hardcore on affirmations. You get what you expect. You speak it into existence, and
right.
it was like nonstop affirmation. Oh, you don't have what you want because your affirmations are so, dude. So hook, line, and sinker. I did the affirmations. I did the abundant language. I did the self-talk and stuff. But because I was so emotionally jacked up and dysfunctional, it never quote unquote worked for me.
Gotcha.
Because the foundation of my house, I built all these great positive emotional or great abundant language and affirmations and visualization and all that stuff. But the foundation of all of it was a very emotionally dysfunctional dude.
Yeah. The roots.
Right?
The roots.
Right. And something I used to say is roots before fruits. Well, my fruits were temporary. I got a lot of success in that environment, but underneath the underlying current, it was built on sand because I was so emotionally jacked up. So, how does that, what's the relationship between abundant language and visualization and the optometrist method, which I love all that stuff.
Yeah.
When you've got someone that was emotionally as jacked up as I was.
Yeah. It is about relentless incrementalism. It's small, manageable chunks. It is what you have to do because it's so easy to, people throw out the abundant language. That's my thing, right? And people throw out laws of attraction, but there still requires work. At the end of the day, it still requires work. It doesn't matter what it is. You can speak whatever positivity you want. You can say, you can develop your daily mantra and you can say it every day in the mirror. But if you don't work, it is not going to change. It doesn't matter what it is, but it comes through the form of relentless incrementalism. There's a story about a British cycling team. Years ago, the British cycling team sucked, and it had been over 100 years before they had won anything. And they brought in a new trainer. And when the trainer came in, he said that what he wanted to do is he wanted to change the way he said, I'm going to go in and I'm going to do a clean house. I'm going to look at our processes. I'm going to look at the processes in the way you eat, the way you sleep, what you drink, whose hands you shake before competitions. We're going to change the room where we work on the bikes. We're going to paint the floors white so we can notice any debris that's going around. And so they started to do that so they can make small. He said, we wanted to increase 1% every day. I don't want you to lose 5 pounds this week. I want you to be 1% better. And that goes back to my saying on relentless incrementalism. So it's about aggregate marginal gains, 1%. So talk all the talk you want about the abundant language. Have as many affirmations as you want, but do not try to put yourself at the finish line. That's where a lot of people fall off. 1% at a time, one step. If you know you have a hard time getting up, and then get up, set the alarm. And you've said this before, if you want to create a new habit, right? What'd you say? Attach it to something that you're already doing. I thought it was phenomenal when you said that, but that's what it's about with the 1%. Small aggregate gains, relentless incrementalism. Yes, your foundation is jacked. Well, you know what? If we have to go in and we have to demo the subfloor to get to the foundation, then that's what we have to do. But it's not about laying it all down at one time. It's about relentless incrementalism, and it's about doing those small micro adjustments daily so you can start working towards it. And then once you start having those small victories, they begin to add up.
That's awesome. The thought that jumped in is, and thank God, right, is jujitsu. I mean, you just described my jujitsu experience. I still feel like that I still feel like a white belt in so many ways, even though I've been doing it for 6.5 years. But it's like, I mean, it's like I just got to keep, even though I still feel like I know nothing in jujitsu, I still feel like I just got to show up, and hopefully I'm going to learn something today in class that I did not know yesterday, right? And maybe I can apply one little thing at a time. Like right now, even right now, I know like one or two, like the arm triangle, bro. Like once I get into side control, and I'll transition them out. Like 80 to 90% of my submissions. Like that's like my only move, bro. It's like all I got. And so that's why it's like, oh man, but like I love that relentless incrementalism. I love that kind of that mindset or that concept. And here's the other reality is like some days in jits, I get balled up by everybody. Yeah. And then some days, okay, I did fairly well with, with these roles, whatever. And it's just what they say, right? Just keep showing up.
Absolutely.
And that's the same thing with our emotional fitness journeys, our emotional health and stuff. Is like, just keep showing. It's not, hey, I listened to a podcast episode, I read a book on EQ, so I'm emotionally intelligent. No, listen, I tell those people all the time, I don't care how many degrees you got in EQ. I don't care if you're a psychologist, psychiatrist. I've met some jacked up psychologists and psychiatrists. Absolutely. Just because you got a PhD and you're, does not mean that you're applying the stuff in your own life. And so, anyway,
that means you have an understanding on how it's supposed to work. It doesn't mean that you put it into action. I know that I'm not. I know, hey, me and Mama Bear, we had a conversation the other day. We really didn't agree. My reactions the other day was not what it was supposed to be, and the end result was 2 hours later, me coming back and having to really bite that and say, hey, I did not practice what I preached. Do you know how years ago I wouldn't have been able to do that? Years ago, I could.
Okay, wait. I want to jump on this. Yeah. What have been some obstacles to your emotional health?
Oh man, just, even aside from the combat, aside from the combat things, that really did it. The birth of my children changed the way I act and the way I react. Let me give you an example of this is another one with me and my son. I'm working on an article right now. It's 4 words that changed the way I parented, and it was real men don't cry. And my 19-year-old was very emotional, man, about not being where he said he wanted to be in life. And he began to cry, and he kept turning his head away from me, and he's wiping his face. And the more he cried, the more upset he got. And I'm like, dude, what is your problem? I'm like, look at me. He was like, Dad, I can't. I was like, what is wrong? He said, Dad, men are not supposed to cry. Real men don't cry. And I grabbed him by his face, man, like with love, not that Marine grab, right? I grabbed him by his face and I said, look at me. I said, who told you that? I never told you that. Noble. As I looked him in his face and I said, I never told you that. Like another voice whispered, but you showed him. And so when you talk about that emotional journey, the emotional things I've gone through, I look at how many times I've showed those negative things, how many times I showed the other side. I want to talk about a life journey. My life journey is all of those moments where I failed. All those moments I failed, and I have to go back and I had to look at how do we get back to this? How do I get to this point? you and I spoke, and I contemplated whether or not I wanted to share this other side, but my story is for the world. And I need people to understand that the person speaking right now isn't just the person who has always been on the high, because I've got many failures. And one of the greatest challenges that challenged my emotional fitness journey, that challenged my ability to function as a man, as a husband, as a father, was January 1st, 2020. My bride gave birth to our twin sons, Roman and Royal. And they were born prematurely, but they had chances, and we had them in our lives for 8 and 16 days. My entire world changed when I lost my sons. My entire being changed. I was angry. I was hurt. I was mad at God. I was mad at myself. I was angry because how do I go back to this bedroom that has 2 cribs, 2 sets of clothes? How do we get in the truck and leave the hospital that has 2 car seats with no babies? So my real challenges over the last 2 years have been able to, how am I going to be an effective leader of Marines? How do I go back to work? How do I deal with when I went back to work, Noble? And hey, man, we haven't seen you. How are those beautiful baby boys doing? How do you deal with that? How do I deal with my bride, who's also a Marine, and having to go to work and people asking her and me having to console her? There were so many times where we were at the bottom, but we had to address what we were feeling. And it really came down to asking the hard question: how are you doing? And not just the one you would get from people to just say it. No, I really want you to give me that raw emotion. And when you can say, I feel like I don't want to be here because I don't have anything. I prayed and believed with everything I had that my sons would be okay, and they're not here. I'm not okay. I'm still expected to go and stand in front of 400 Marines and call them to the position of attention, knowing that what just happened days ago, right? So of all of the things that have happened in my life, I thought going to combat and losing Marines was the lowest I could get, dealing with that PTS, that post-traumatic stress. And then I said, losing a child is by far the worst thing anyone could ever endure. But then when you lose the second, you realize the depths of pain and grief. And I've had to use EQ, man, in a major way to salvage my relationship with my bride, and to continue to grow and develop and to be the speaker, the teacher, the leader, the communicator I am. And that's why my EQ journey is just, I'm so full of it and I believe in it so much, is because that's what it took to put these pieces together right now. And thankfully, man, my baby boy, Royal II, he's named after his first brother that passed away. We've been blessed. He's my Samuel. He's asked of God, and I have another child, and he's 15 months old right now. And I'm so happy. And so the way I look at him, the way I feel my bride's emotions, the way we speak, the way we communicate, I realize I needed to go through those things. Nobody wants to go on the potter's wheel. Nobody wants to be shaped and molded. But oh my goodness, I had a friend of mine tell me, she said, Dimyas, that's my first name, but everybody calls me D, but she said, Dimyas, you're like Kintsugi. And first I got offended. I was like, what's Kintsugi? I feel like you're offending me right now. But she said, Kintsugi is a type of Japanese clay, Japanese pottery, where the pottery is broken, but it's mended together. It's pieced back together with gold. And so it's more valuable in the end. And now through me piecing our lives together by developing higher levels of EQ, my family, my heart, my soul, my spirit, what I put out, my communication, it's that Kintsugi. What people see when they meet me now is what's been put back together through me elevating my awareness and my management, and as well as considering my family, that social awareness and that relationship management piece, man. I know that's a long answer, but I wanted to really, I never want someone to look at the mic and see the person speaking and think they've always had it. No. We still go through, and you never know what's happening behind that microphone. It's just, how am I able to deal with it? How am I able to manage it? Because I can't lose. I can't lose. I can't go back, because I've been through too much, and my story is too great not for me to practice everything that I need to prepare it, to be able to deliver it, because the world needs to hear it.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
For sharing that, and I'm so sorry that you lost your children and, have been through that.
Yeah. It's definitely the worst thing,
joke,
man.
Brother. I just can't imagine.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. So thank you for sharing that. And if you can share, I know you've got your book. If you could tell us about your book, and if you can tell us, if you want to tell us more about Talent Smart, and then I want to hear how we follow you, how we find you.
Yeah, man. So we thank you again so much, man. I need people to know I reached out to you on a whim. I'm just like, look, I typed in EQ and LinkedIn. I wanted to know who else was doing it. I need to be able to figure out who else is out here in this space. And I found you. I was like, the EQ gangster, who is this guy? That's supposed to be me, man. I'm the EQ boss, right? No, man. And I just heard you, and I thought, man, this guy is incredible. He's really doing a good thing. And when we reached out and we spoke the other day, man, it was divine. And I appreciated that. So I am the Director of Military Solutions for TalentSmart. You can find TalentSmart, TalentSmartEQ.com. And we're premier service, man. We're the #1 emotional intelligence agency, phenomenal speakers, teachers, leaders, communicators. We do everything from keynote speaking engagements to EQ Essentials, which is a 1-hour online course that you can take if you can't make it. We do face-to-face facilitation, both level 1 and level 2. We certify people in emotional intelligence. They can become instructors, if you do your own consulting type business, but it's great. So that's who I work for, and I found them through the Military Skill Bridge program. I worked with them in my transition, and when you talk about walking in your purpose and walking in fulfillment, you have to do the right thing, and that leads me into the book. I left the Marine Corps because I said I needed to be great. One promotion away from Sergeant Major. I wanted to be a Sergeant Major. I always wanted to be a Sergeant Major. And I submitted for retirement while the board was in session. I knew I would have been a Sergeant Major. I'd performed, but I explain it like the push people had for me to stay in wasn't as great as the pull my purpose and fulfillment had for me to leave. And so the title for the book right now, I'm not sure if it's gonna change. They say you should never write the title of your book before you finish writing it, but the whole purpose of it, man, the title of the book is Elevation Requires Change: The Journey Towards Purpose and Fulfillment. And it's because that's what I want people to chase. I don't want people to chase money. I don't want people to chase fame, because when you really go through something, they say you're either going to a storm, in a storm, or coming out of one. And that money is not going to mean anything when you're in it. That fame is not going to mean anything while you're in it. That's why some of the richest people in the world end their lives, because they're empty. They're not full. And when you chase fulfillment, and when you chase your purpose, and when you have a vision, you can follow that thing. And so that's what the book is about. The book is about things like, if you, for people who want to chase their purpose, but can't figure out how to do it. I have a section where I talk, if you identify your distractions, you identify the root cause of your inaction, and figure out what things keep you from doing what it is you want to do. And for me, one of those distractions was I say yes to people. I say yes, but in me saying yes, it's pulled me away. So what did I do 2 weeks ago? 5 days, no cell phone, no TV. I went out to a cabin and I wrote, and I just wrote. I talk about getting lost. You need to get lost. And in the process of getting lost, you will find so much clarity. Just went out in the mountains and just walking out. And you know what? All of this could be gone just like this. But man, I'm so big about what I'm doing within my dash, and my book is to be able to help people grow stronger, more mentally resilient, to be able to develop who they are, to chase purpose and to chase fulfillment, and to understand, if you want to change anything, if you want to elevate, elevation requires change.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
how do we find you? How do we follow you? Do you have a website, email? How do we,
Gotcha.
social
No,
media?
yeah, no website yet. My Instagram is Mr. XNTE, MRXNTE. That's on, stands for Mr. Expect Nothing, Take Everything. If you want anything to happen in life, don't expect it to be given to you. You got to take it. So that's Mr. Zent on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook and on LinkedIn by my name, Dimyas Perdue, Dimyas Perdue. And if you're looking for anything emotional intelligence related, you can go to TalentSmartEQ.com and you can search up about, you want to find me, go to our members and you'll find me as the Director of Military Solutions.
Awesome. And all for the YouTubers and the podcasters, I'll include all that stuff in the show notes so folks can
yeah, gotcha. I appreciate it, man. And the goal is to get the podcast going. The goal is to launch the YouTube channel, because my thing is Chasing Heartbeats. My YouTube channel will be called Chasing Heartbeats. And that came from just me always talking about who's my audience. My audience is anyone with a heartbeat, because my message of EQ, my message of resilience, my message of purpose and fulfillment applies to the kindergartner that just wants to get on the stage and do the play. And it applies to CEOs sitting in the C-suite. It applies to everybody.
D, absolutely can't thank you enough for sharing your story, for your vulnerability, for sharing your growth journey, some of your lessons learned, your insights. Super stoked for the book to come out.
Thank you, man. I'm excited about it too,
brother.
Yeah, thank you for your time, your service, and I appreciate you following your calling, man. I'm so thankful.